Hello everyone. This question on board now will now be the last question I will treat on bearing and distances. Remember, I have started treating this topic since I have treated about 5 to 6 questions from that. Please watch the previous one. This question on board was WAEC question in 2018 in Nigeria, okay? Now let us solve it, okay? Pay attention as we solve them. Three ships P, Q, and R are at sea. The bearing of Q from P is 030 degrees, and the bearing of P from R is 300 degrees. If the distance between P and the Q is equals to 5 kilometers, and the distance between P and R is equals to 8 kilometers, the first question say that, question number I say that illustrate the information in diagram. Question number 1. Question number 2 say calculate the distance between Q and R. Then question number 3 says calculate the bearing of R from Q. Now this was another technical question from bearing and distances, okay? Now we say that we have 3 ships. Now the first ship is, this place is a position of the first ship, which is P ship, okay? Now they now say that these 3 ships now they're at sea. Then the bearing of Q from P, okay? So which means the position of Q from P is starting from P. They started taking the bearing from P. Is 030, so we now take the 030 from here, meaning that here is 030 degrees because the bearing is starting from P, because they say Q from P. It will now be from P. Now is here. This is where Q is located, okay? Considering the bearing with this one. Then the question also say that the bearing of P, which is this P now, this P position, the bearing of P from R is 300, okay? The bearing of P from R is 300. They now ask us the bearing of P from R. Let us say that our R is somewhere here. This is position of our R, and they say the bearing of P from R is 300, meaning that the bearing will start from R, okay? So from here to here is 90, to here 180, to here 270. How many is remaining to make it 300? 30, Abby. So let's say it's somewhere here. See it. The bearing of P from R. So the bearing is 300, okay? The bearing is 300 degrees. This is our R, okay? The bearing is 300 degrees. Now this is the information I'm trying to represent in diagram. Now the questions now say, number one question now say we should illustrate it in diagram, which is what we are doing now. The second question say we should calculate the distance between Q and R, which means distance between here to here. Don't mind my diagram. Supposed to, all this I'm drawing is supposed to be straight. So you say the distance from here to here. So let's name that distance A, which we are going to calculate. So we have succeeded in putting this information in a diagram, which is, we have finished number 1 question. So let us now do number 2 question. So which means we are now going to calculate the distance of Q from R, which we name A, okay? Now before we need it, we now need the inside angle. We need the inside angle to enable us to calculate it. How do you do it now? Remember that if here is 30, the remaining this one now will now be 60 degrees. Then if here is 300, Here now, inside here now will now be 30 degrees. Then alternate angle, this angle here is an alternate angle with this angle outside here, which is 30. Please, I've taught alternate angle, check it on my channel. So here will also be 30 degrees, meaning that all of them is 90 degrees, which tells us that this triangle here is a right angle triangle. So we are going to solve all the question here based on right angle triangle. Now let us calculate the distance. Since this triangle now is right angle triangle, we are going to calculate it using Pythagoras theory. Remember that the distance of PQ, which is PQ, is 5 kilometer, and PR, which is PR is 8 kilometer. Now let us solve for A. Using Pythagoras theory, let's say that this A we are solving is equals to addition of A square. This A square, which is the side I'm solving, was addition of 2 other sides, which is 5 square plus 8 square. Which means A square equals to 5 square is 25. 8 square is what? 54. Now, we are now going to look for A, which is finding the square root of both sides. We now have A equals to square root of this side. Now, 25 plus 64 is what? 89. Then square root of 89 is what? 9.4 approximately kilometer. So the distance here is 9.4 kilometer. Okay. Now the final question, which says that we should find the bearing of R from Q. The bearing of R from Q, meaning that they are asking us here the bearing of R from Q. This is Q. So they're asking us angle between here to here. Now from here to here is 90. Then we now check the remainder of this one to add it to 90. We now get it. So and before we can do that, we're supposed to find the angle here to know whether we can get it. Remember from alternate angle, which I've taught on this channel, this place is alternate to here. This angle is alternate angle to this one. So if here is 30, here will also be 30 degrees. So it's remaining here. So if we can now find the angle that will be here, what we will just say is from all of this place to here is 180. We will now just say 180. If we can find this place now, we will now just subtract this 30 from 180 to now give us the bearing we are looking for. Now the problem now is to find angle that will be here. Let us name that angle that will be there, theta. Okay. So now, since this triangle is right angle triangle, all right, we can now use a trigonometric ratio. Trigonometric ratio we are going to use as a result of that this triangle is right angle triangle. Trigonometric ratio says that sine of this angle is equals to opposite side of the angle all over hypotenuse side, which is A. So that will enable us to, let us use to enable us to find this one. We say that sine 30, that is 30 plus this, sine of all the angle here, 30 in bracket plus theta will now give us opposite, which is equals to opposite, which is 8, all over hypotenuse, which is the side facing 90 degrees, and our hypotenuse, which we have calculated, is 99.4. And when we use our calculator to divide, what do we get? 0.85. Now let us now make 30 plus theta subject of formula. Now have 30 plus theta as subject of our formula equals to sine inverse now. Sine inverse of 0.85. And when we use our calculator to find the sine inverse, what will it give us? Now give us 58.3 degrees. Okay, let us use this equation now to find our theta. Remember that 30 plus theta is equals to 58.3 degrees. Now let us make theta subject of formula. It will now be theta equals to 58.3 minus 30. What will remain? It will now remain 28.3 degrees. That's the value of theta. So here now we will now will now be 28.3. Now let us find the bearing now. Okay, the bearing of R from Q. So the bearing of R from Q is now equals to 180 minus 28.3. I mean 180 minus 28.3. That is, remember that from here to here is 90, and from here to here is also 90. 90 plus 90 plus 90 is 180. 90 plus 90 is 180. So from here to this line now is 180. Now, in order to find here now, we now subtract this one from it. We now subtract this one from 180 for us to find the remaining one, which will now be the bearing they are asking us. That is what we did here. 180 minus 28.3, and which will give us what? Gives us 151.3 degrees. So the bearing of R from Q. The bearing of R from Q is 151.3. The bearing of R from Q, which is from here to here, is 151.3. That is how to solve it. If you have watched to this extent, thank you so much and God bless. Please don't forget to share, like, and comment on that. Thank you. Bye.